Welcome back, everybody. It is the 11th, the 11th of March. It is Saturday, the 11th of March. It's 8:32 p.m. That's why I'm having such a hard time. I just completely forgot how I start these things. Welcome back, everybody. It is Saturday, the 11th of March, 2023. Making today day 70. And I remember that because yesterday was day 69, and that's a funny number to remember. 70 days of this podcast, 70 days of sobriety, 70 days of life changes measured in real time through this. You've got 70 days of documented conversations with myself and this microphone that you can go back and listen to and have a catalog of and just sort of, absorb everything. It'll be interesting to listen back to this, let's say in like a decade. I can come back and listen to this every day in a decade when I'm 37 and listen to all the challenges that I'm going through and all the things that I'm thinking and wonder, I hope by the time I listen to this in the future that I have figured out all the things that I'm figuring out now. Or at least I'm closer to it, or have closure on the things that I don't yet have closure on. But I didn't know what to talk about, and I've sort of just been procrastinating all day because that's what I do best. In fact, I'd probably put that in my hard skills on a resume, procrastination, because I do it really well. But I thought before, I remembered a story from when I was a kid, and I'm going to tell that story. So I come from like a broken household. You know, my mum and my real dad split up when I was 2. I met my real dad in the bread aisle of a Woolworths when I was 7. But on top of that, I want to call it intrafamiliar, right? Like mum's family was sort of broken as well. So she came from a broken home. She left home when she was 16. I can't remember if she left home when she got kicked out, but either way, she left the house when she was 16 because she used to get in punch-ons with her mum, and her dad was an alcoholic, and he had left and he started another family with another woman, and like just broken households. And my auntie, she has 2 sisters, so one that was a couple years younger than her, and one that was like 10 years younger than her, 9 years younger than her, or something. And so my mum and my auntie, my youngest auntie, her youngest sister, both like they had on and off relationship, I guess throughout my whole life. So I've never really had a relationship with my cousins and stuff like that, just because of the volatility of the relationship that my mum and her sister have, right? And so, as part of, I guess, reparations, during one of their many, let's call them reintroductions, right? Where my auntie would stop talking to my mum for a little bit, or vice versa, and then they would come back to each other different people, and they would try again from a different perspective. And then eventually, one of them was toxic for the other, and or they just didn't respect each other, or they had a different idea of how the relationship was going to go. I can't really speak on it because I know nothing about it. All I know is that they love each other, but they don't like each other in a weird way. Anyway, my auntie was trying to be relatable, I guess. I don't know how this all came about, but we ended up going horse riding. Now, I'd never been horse riding before, and admittedly, never really thought about it. I mean, I'd seen Saddle Club, but like, horse riding wasn't really a thing that I'd ever really been like, oh yeah, I really want to do that. You know what I wanted to do? Dirt bike riding, or like quad biking, or, even fishing with my dad. No, we're not going there, but, even fishing or something like that. I wanted to do one of those things. And so my auntie took me horse riding. Now, it was actually pretty fun. They take you around, they put you up on the horse and they take you around the paddock. And I can't remember my age. I feel like this was before we'd met Colin, my real dad. I feel like it was between the age of 6 and when I met Colin. So I think I might have been closer to 8. So let's say I turned 8 in 2003, right? It was probably sometime in 2002, maybe early 2003, that I had gone horse riding, and so we get up and they're giving you the instructions. So it's meant to be like a trail ride. So we all, like, there's a bunch of people there. It wasn't just me and my auntie. There was like probably, I don't know, like a class. Let's say there's probably like 10 people, of varying ages. I was the youngest for sure. And they gave me the smallest horse. But the smallest horse was still fucking huge. At least in my memory it was. Maybe it wasn't that big, but it was, I feel like it was big. When I was up on that fucking thing, I was like, whoa, what's going on? Anyway, so they take you around like this paddock thing first, and the guy's like holding out the lady. I can't remember, one of the people, the guide is holding the mouthpiece or whatever, like the rope that connects to the horse's head. And they like guide you around the paddock, and then they let go after one lap, and they tell you like, you got to kick in and you steer with the reins, and you got to kick in to get the horse going. And so in the paddock, I like kicked in a little bit and the horse would move. I kicked it a little bit harder. It would move faster. I'd slow down. Like, so I figured out how to control this horse using the methods that this person taught me. And they were like, all right, sweet. We're going to go on a rail, on a trail run, I mean. And we're going to go out and down this ridge thing. We're going to go all the way around the top of this ridge and loop back in. It's going to, it's meant to take, let's say, half an hour, right? And so we get about, 10 minutes into this trail. And you could still see from where we were, you could still see where we came from. Like the whole time as you're going around this ridge thing, you can see the paddocks and the stables and whatnot where these horses all lived. And my horse is like, let's say we're like middle of the crowd. So there's a couple horses in front, couple horses behind, right? And my horse just stops moving. And then everyone was like, "Whoa, what's going on?" And they turn around and they're like, "Oh, you got to give him a bit of a kick, you get a bit of a nudge." And so I did it once, and they were like, "Oh, you got to give it some oomph." And so I went another time, and the second time I did it, this horse like reared up a little bit, fucking whinnied like a motherfucker. It was so fucking scary, and it took off. Like the horse was like, it like stopped, and it just had this pent up rage that I either scared it or something happened. Anyway, it like sort of bucks me off as it's speeding up. So it wasn't intending to buck me off. It was just, I freaked out and I just forgot to hold on. So as it like reared up to take off, I'd like started to slip, and then it started running, and this thing took off. I remember what happened was my foot got caught in one of the stirrups. On my left foot actually got caught in one of the stirrups. And this horse dragged me along the ground for, I don't know, let's say 5 meters. It was probably closer to 10, but it was like a few meters. Dragged me along the ground. My foot came loose from the stirrup. And by the time I like sat up and registered what was going on, this horse had like run down into this this valley between like next to the ridge, because the ridge went across like over the top of these hills, and it like ran down into the hill and then back up the other side, and it was like on the other side, and it was fucking like whinnying and making noise, and they called it back and it came over and whatever. And I remember just being like super freaked out. Obviously I was crying. I was 7 years old. And I was crying about this horse had just bucked me off. It was super painful. It was terrifying, whatever. And they were like, oh, we'll go back. They were telling my auntie that we'll get a refund or whatever. And my auntie was like, oh, do you want to go back? Like, are you okay? And I was like, no, I want to keep going. This is okay. And so they gave me back the original horse, because they offered me another horse, and I was like, no, I like this one. This was the coolest looking horse, and it was also small. They were going to give me a bigger horse, and I was like, there's no fucking way I'm getting on a bigger horse after that ordeal, cunt. There's no way. And so I get back onto this normal size horse, and we finish the route, and I get back, and I notice that I've got some grazes and whatever, some gravel stuck to me. I've got dirt all over me, all over my clothes, whatever. And so we finish it up, and they were all super impressed, and like, most, they were impressed because most kids who like get freaked out like that, or have serious injuries like that, whatever. Not serious, but you know what I mean. They get injured like that. They don't want to continue. They're too scared. They're not getting back on the horse. But I got back on my horse. Anyway, we went back to my auntie's place, and she didn't tell my mum that I'd been injured. And so by that point, the grazes from being dragged along the gravel, like the rash, the burn from being dragged along the gravel and the grass, had started to heal. But it was healing my t-shirt and pants to my body. Like they got stuck. I couldn't take my shirt or pants off. So I had to get in the bath with my clothes on to like, it's awful to think about, but it's like to wet the scab so that my clothes could come off. And I ended up having a rash that pretty much went from my shoulder down to my arse cheek, like a big scab, like one big whole sort of gravel rash scab thing that went from my shoulder, a little bit of the back of my head, all the way down to my arse. And I had like a bruise on my leg and everything. And I was lucky that the horse didn't fucking completely crush me. I was lucky that he didn't take me down into the ravine. I was lucky that I was just lucky. There was a lot of luck involved, and I think there's probably some serious things now about like not letting kids get back on the horse. But I don't know. I can't even think of the quote or like the saying, but it's, you know, like get back on your horse. It's like a tough thing. And I was sick. So I didn't even know about it then, but I found out about it later. And everyone was pretty stoked that I had gone through that thing that was terrifying, and I still like didn't let it dissuade me. I didn't let it stop me from doing that. And I only remembered about it like maybe 20 minutes before I came in here to tell that story to this microphone. But I wonder if that was a formative moment, and I wonder if that specific scenario has defined part of my character now. I would like to think so, but it could also just be a story. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for listening. I'm not going to do this one late tomorrow. I'm actually going to get up tomorrow morning and do another one of these podcasts straight away. So I'll speak to you in the morning. Thank you for listening.